You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where it's another Gujarat Titans special. They don't win the easy way, but they do win, and they win a lot. They're top of the table. They beat Sunrisers in that first v second clash. Turns out we were right about Sunrisers all along. They are rubbish. There's no good signs whatsoever for them to take from that match at all. Pat ourselves on the back, boys. This is a cricket podcast. There were two other IPL matches, but we'll start with that one. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. He's sipping on a beer. How you doing, Ross?
Buzzing, absolutely buzzing. What a game. Two, Sunrisers losing. Big tick to the box for me. One step. It's stopped the gradual ascent to the cap and gown that I've ended up going to wear for Sunrisers. And yeah, I'm just blown away by Rashid Khan and Tawati at the end there.
Yeah, for sure. And Max Rowe-Brown, fresh off his stint at Guerrilla Cricket. How you doing, Max?
Yeah, good. Thanks. It's we really have a vested interest now, don't we, in Sunrisers losing, just for our own sanity and our own egos. So it was it was nice.
There were some good things though. Before we get into it, normally we just go straight into messages. Should we do Umran Malik now? Because that's kind of what everyone's jazzed about, right? Like,
yeah.
It's, that's what we're hot for. Umran Malik, 5 wickets, 25 runs. Were they all bowled as well, or did I just imagine?
No, Hardik Pandya was.
Oh yeah. No, he was bounced out. So he's bounced out well, and he nearly bounced him out twice. But the first
softened up with the first ball.
Umran Malik, Ross, talk to me.
Well, he's come on the scene like a jet machine, and he literally he's unplayable.
Like a jet machine.
Yeah, I was going to say a sex machine, but I realised that's wrong. But he's one of those rough diamonds that the IPL has managed to uncover. Abdul Samad, who was retained by Sunrisers, I think he was friends with him, got him down to the cricket nets and said, look at this guy, was brought in as a replacement for when Natarajan got injured last time out. And he's not looked back since. The guy is on fire at the moment. And today he was bowling at 150 kilometres an hour and causing... Shubman Gill is the test match opening batsman for India. And he was trying to play him from square leg because he was scared of the ball. That is a doff in the cap. For,
I mean, that's one interpretation. I think you might be exaggerating that slightly with Gill, but definitely. And I remember a quote from Wisden. You know, the Yellow Book.
Yep.
2003, I think it was. I bought Wisden. It's the only time I've ever bought it. But I remember a quote in there. I think Shoaib Akhtar was like one of their players of the year. And the quote was something along the lines of, Shoaib Akhtar is too fast, too full, and too straight for batsmen across the world. And he averaged 12 that year. And watching that kind of reminded me of that quote, which I think is a roundabout way of delivering some pretty high praise there, right, to Umran Malik, that he reminded me of a quote about Shoaib Akhtar. And I think the hype might be real, boys, I think, on this one. Like, Sunrisers hyper. That doesn't really make any sense, does it?
Hyper bad. Is that where you were going with that?
No, I was going hyper bad, but then doesn't make any sense at all. So let's just skip over that. But the hype is real. The hype is real. Max, you were commentating on it. Did you enjoy commentating on Malik?
It was pretty impressive, wasn't it? It really changed it should have changed the game.
It definitely did change the game.
It changed the game. It didn't change the result, I suppose, but it changed the course of the game for sure. And it was it's been really nice to see Umran Malik develop over this IPL, both in terms of how he's played, because he's obviously improved personally, but also how Sunrisers have used him. Compared to the first game where he was in the power play, got a bit unlucky, was very expensive. Part of that was because he was unlucky, but part of that was because he was being used in the wrong place. When you've got a guy bowling that quickly, the power play is not necessarily the right time to use them. You haven't got as much protection. All it takes is a little edge, and suddenly you've gone for 16 in 4 balls, and that's how it goes. He's been used in the middle overs now, just to bowl really fast and really fast at the stumps. And I guess there are 2 things you need to do, aren't there, when you're a fast bowler? Bowl really fast and bowl it in the right place. And those 2 are somewhat difficult to do at the same time for a lot of people. Umran Malik did them both today, and it worked, didn't it? Worked really well.
What was your favourite of the fast balls?
It's got to be Manohar, hasn't it? Abhinav Manohar, first ball, just didn't have a clue, did he? Did not have a clue.
I like David Miller. I always think when middle stump goes down and off stump and leg stump are
that's true.
straight.
That's true.
But
David Miller was going for that, wasn't he? You know, there was more of a chance of the wicket there because David Miller was playing the attacking shot. Manohar was just trying to survive and just didn't know where the ball was.
The thing with Miller though, he like played the right shot. It was like the good shot. He kept his shape really well, swung through the line of the ball, and it was just not there for long enough to hit. the ball went through the bit where it should have been faster than he thought, and it was incredible. Yeah. It's a shame for Umran Malik that he's ended up on the wrong side here, because that's as good as like any century.
That's it. Like
you'll see,
he should be man of the match.
Cricket. He is. He must have been man of the match. He must have been man of the match. If you're going to tell me here that he wasn't man of the match, he took all the wickets. They didn't take another wicket.
Ridwan Saha's man of the match.
Ridwan Saha played well. He could be on the podium. You know, maybe I don't even know if he's on the podium, to be honest. 31 off 11, Rashid Khan. Tawacha's like the third most important player in this match, and he's done basically another Tawacha. It's.
Well, we had Agent Rashid for the first innings, didn't we?
Yeah.
Right, we're going to take a little pause. So, Umran Malik, good, I think we'll say. And fast.
Tick the box.
Tick the box. What are the message to the listeners? Then we'll get Max to quickly summarise that match, and we'll talk about Gujarat. Who are the winners, believe it or not?
Well, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket, and I actually got the package today from them. So we've got paintless spikes. We've got some gloves that I've ordered. They're from Keeley. We've got gear, they've got Max Your Inners. So go to their website, use code TCP22 for 10% off. They've been supplying us for ages, so and they are great gear. So you can get all equipment 10% off there on their website. Follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, look at that beautiful shirt, sponsored by the Cricket Podcast, I Don't Like Cricket Club. Maybe we should sell that as merchandise. Who knows if people would buy that. And if you're watching this video, if you've not watched this before, subscribe. We do 3 weekly IPL shows. Jack typically doesn't do strip teases, so this is a rare treat for you.
We're all high off Umran Malik.
And also we're on Patreon. The Discord today following this game was brilliant. So all of the people contributing to that today, thank you ever so much. And also thank you for contributing to the Cricket Podcast. We couldn't do it without you. So. Final
note for the listeners, it's going to be a rare occasion where we don't have a show on Friday because we've got an evening match and it's a bank holiday weekend. So Max and I, we're going to do a special preview show on YouTube. We'll put it out as a podcast too, where we talk about Thursday's match and Friday's match and stuff. It'll be up an hour before that game. I think we were talking about, Max, so just be aware of that. What happened today? Gujarat Titans.
Well, Gujarat Titans, Sunrisers Hyderabad, was second v third in the table. Gujarat hoping to go top. Ahead of Rajasthan Royals, and with Sunrisers on the back of 5 wins in a row, we were excited for some good action. But we could have just skipped all the middle bit. That was all really exciting because Sunrisers lost the toss, didn't they? Finally, they lost the toss. They lost their first toss of the season. Gujarat Titans won and put them into bat, which we assumed would spell disaster for the Sunrisers franchise, which is all set up to bowl teams out for 150 and chase it down without too much trouble. So how surprised we were when Sunrisers came out and did the business with the bat, as long as your name's not Kane Williamson. Abhishek Sharma in particular taking down Rashid Khan, former Sunriser himself. And they were going great guns, looking at possibly notching up around 200. That was until Aiden Markram fell and also Abhishek Sharma fell, and the slightly soft underbelly of Sunrisers reared its ugly head, and they were looking more like pootling along to 175. But the game was a tale of 2 20th overs, wasn't it? With this one from Lockie Ferguson getting some treatment. Was it 26 it went for in the end? 24, 26?
Wasn't very good.
Either way, it took Sunrisers from a reasonably good score to what looked like a very, very good score, albeit with a short boundary of 55 metres.
Do you know what? Today I was working very hard, and so I didn't have any breakfast. I didn't have any lunch. because I wanted to get back so I could do this show and watch the second half of the cricket. And so that over came at like the peak of, well, the trough of the sugar in my blood. And I think
it's delirious.
It's well documented that I don't particularly rate Sunrisers. And so I was like, look, finally they batted first. They're not going to put a great score up. They're going to get David Millard. At least I can go home and enjoy that. Wheels came off. A guy on debut. Scooping Ferguson, like another full toss from Ferguson, over fine leg. It was great. No, he batted pretty well. But
it wasn't a good final over. Too many slower balls.
25 from 6 balls.
Yeah, it wasn't a great over. It has to be said. But the scooping a Lockie Ferguson full toss at like 90 miles an hour was pretty good effort. So essentially, Sunrisers were strong favourites, I think, at that point. Gujarat Titans came out and they were pretty much in the game for most of the first half. Ridham Saha, surprisingly, was the man who did the business with the bat. Shubman Gill was there also. Didn't do as well with the bat, but he was there. And then it was time for the Umran Malik show. I've only just realised that Gujarat Titans lost 5 wickets. And Umran Malik took 5 wickets. First, he dispatched Shubman Gill, stepping away to try and make some room, I would say, Ross, rather than being scared of the ball. Bye-bye off stump. Then went Hardik Pandya, bounced out. Ridham Saha, gone. David Miller, gone. Abhinav Manohar, gone. And we're thinking there's no chance. But
it wasn't only fast, but it happened so fast as well in the game.
Yeah,
they
just bowled him through, didn't they?
They
brought him on around the 10th over, around halfway stage.
He bowled the 16th, so something like that, yeah.
Yeah, bowled him through, caused all sorts of carnage, and pretty much won the game for Sunrisers. It left Rahul Tewatia and Rashid Khan leaving an improbable number of runs to chase. I think it had got to about 60 off 30. You're looking at 50, 57 off 22, something like that. It was over to a ball. And by the end, even despite some good hitting, 22 off the final over looked like it was probably a step too far.
I thought it was over.
Yeah. I thought there was a chance. I thought there was an outside chance, but especially once Tewatia had, I think he'd hit a 6, hadn't he? And then only a single after that. I didn't back Rashid Khan to do the rest, and how wrong I was.
It was incredible. It's another. I mean, that might be the best finish to a match in this IPL, and we've had some good ones. The double 6, the 2 6s off the last 2 balls. Oh dear Smith. Dhoni was good. I feel like this might be the best.
I think this was better than Dhoni.
It's the redemption arc.
It's the redemption arc. You've got
comes back in.
You've got
and the fact that it involves Tewatia, that always helps.
Yeah, I mean Tewatia. He's basically
worth every penny of that 9 crore.
He's literally justified it. He's this wasn't complete solo virtuoso Tewatia. There was a bit more of an ensemble cast here.
Yeah,
but they don't come anywhere near the target without Tewatia. And I don't even think he played that well. I was watching it. I was thinking he's not really timing this, is he?
No, he did time the full tosses. He made the most of those. Jack, normally you ask the questions, but I'll ask the question for now. Rashid Khan, not that great batting. Talk to me.
I don't know. I mean, he's certainly got a couple of shots, hasn't he? And we did say this when Jordan got taken to the cleaners by him. He has an arc, doesn't he? Like there's an area he quite likes the ball, and you don't often see him like cutting and pulling. I'm thinking back to the game, and there were quite a few sort of swing and misses balls that went through chest height.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jansen missed the trick there a little bit. The commentators were like, "Oh, that's so brave to bowl a short ball at this time." And it was like, the other option,
the only place you should be bowling to
the other option is to put it in his hockey arc, isn't it? And he'll hockey you. And it was so I think there's a little bit of blame, just like for Ferguson in the first set, and that's what I thought we'd be talking about was Ferguson's trash over. But I do think in this situation, a little bit of blame does have to go to the bowler, because as good as Rashid Khan is proving to be as this lower order hitter, better, I think, than a lot of people would have given him credit for. We knew he had some shots here, but we didn't think he was, or I didn't think he was the sort of player that would do that.
31 off 11, good.
Twice in a season. Or 31 off 11 in the final over. So I think there's a little, maybe you have to say that the bowling.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to take nothing away from it, like what they did, 50 off the last 3 overs, that's the most runs chased in the final 3 overs of a match in this IPL. I don't think you can. Whilst I don't think it was a great bowling, I also don't think you can take too much credit away from Rashid Khan and Twacha for pulling that off, because it is that's a stack of runs, 50 runs in 3 overs, and you're your only hope as well. You're like, it's not like Dubé and who was it with him? Raina? Not Raina. It was definitely wasn't Raina. Utapa, that was it. Yeah, it's not like them the other day when they were scoring all those runs, but they had wickets in hand. They were doing it. They were sort of, that was incredible.
They had a safety net. Yeah.
That was incredible as well. But the game was on the line. They had about a 10% chance of winning with 3 overs to go, and they had about a 20% chance of winning or a 15% chance at the beginning of the final over. Like, they didn't have a hope in. Well, they didn't really have much of a hope. They had hope in hell. 50. Hope in hell, isn't it? But it's a proper bailout job. I mean, and of them, we're talking about Gujarat Titans who've done this a few times. Maybe the Odin Smith one was better. I think 2 sixes to win it off the last 2 balls. I don't know, Ross.
But there's just so much rightness. I think first off, we need to say thank you to Jitta Rangachari for the super chat.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for that. Yeah.
That's very kind of you. And I think when it comes to this bit, I prefer this one purely on the fact that it adds to the rich tapestry of the IPL narrative arc. I love, like, Rashid Khan wasn't retained as the number 1 pick by Sunrisers. It was given to Kane Williamson because they wanted a batsman who would hit a strike rate of less than 100. And he has come back to haunt them here. And it did look like it wasn't going to happen. Like, he had a terrible, that when in Sunrisers' innings, he was rubbish, right? It wasn't the Rashid Khan we'd seen before.
No, why do you think that was?
I think he might have been trying a little bit too hard. I think it was one of those things. He was desperate for it to go right. But it could have easily been kind of joked about him being Agent Rashid Khan, right? He got 0 for 45. Is against the franchise he obviously fell out with. In the IPL, this is only the 7th time in 84 matches that Rashid Khan has conceded more than 40 runs in an innings. So it's a freak. Yes, it's a freak occurrence, right? And here, like, he didn't seem to have a plan. Like, normally when Rashid's coming up to the crease, you're a bit like, right, he understands how he's going to get this batsman out. He gets to have a Sheikh Sharma. He had no idea. It was. Yeah, he batted really well. We had 3 identical than
that now, though, are we? But like,
three identical blows for 6, and he was just like, I was screaming at the TV, like, come round the wicket, do something different. And it didn't seem he was in that headspace. He dropped a catch, misjudged one that went for a boundary, and you kind of thought, man, what a horrible return to Sunrisers against Sunrisers. With the bat, though, this redemption like fairy tale. It was incredible. I think for the personal emotion of this and the narrative, this is better than the Odin Smith one for me.
Okay. After the game as well, he wasn't even calling them Sunrisers. He was sort of like them. Like, I think there might have been some real friction.
We were talking behind the scenes at Guerrilla Cricket about how we'd love to see Rashid Khan win it and then do an Adebayor celebration. And we kind of got that. We kind of got the Adebayor celebration at the end. It was good.
A little bit. I thought that they weren't going to do this. I had prepared basically for a show where we talked about how Gujarat weren't going to win and how the Sunrisers' trajectory was going to be unstoppable. So I don't have much more to say. What I did think was interesting from a Gujarat point of view, they got off to a really good start, didn't they? Do you think maybe they'd be better off? Or do you think maybe they need a pinch hitter in the top 3 or somebody to come in after the power play ends that can hit the ball in the air, though? I'm just looking at the sort of the top 2 guys specifically here. Ridwan Saha batted really well. Shubman Gill didn't bat so well, but has batted well in this tournament. But they don't actually ever hit the ball in the air. And it means you get sort of the end of the power play, and then the game enters this weird phase where they neither of them have really got any proper scoring options, and they play these beautiful shots to 1 or for one on to a guy on the boundary until it all kind of gets too much and they do something a bit silly. I think at about the 14 over mark, Gujarat, just to illustrate how significant this is, Gujarat had already passed the number of fours that Sunrisers had hit in their entire innings, except the Sunrisers had hit like 12 sixes. So they were looking pretty good still. In the end, Tawatia and Rashid Khan do hit a bunch of sixes, but they really had to dig themselves out of a hole. So I wonder, I'm putting it to you, that maybe they need to think about having somebody who is prepared to take a little bit more of a risk up top, or in that 3-4 spot. Same thing's happening with Kohli. Maybe we can get onto it in a bit, but it's not the same thing that's happening with Kohli. Kohli's not even getting to the bit where you hit loads of fours. But last year, that's what happened with Kohli. He hit loads of fours and no sixes, and it just got bogged down every time the field went back.
At least he hit some fours.
And perhaps it plays to their strengths, right? They're in this position. They had the mega auction. They got the players that they got, and they're doing their best to put this team together. I'm not sure we're in a position, or anyone's in a position, to turn around and actually look to try and improve this lineup at this point in time, because they have played 8 matches, won 7 games. It's an unbelievable run that they've actually put this together. They clearly have a way of playing cricket, and Hardik Pandya, Tawatia in the middle, they're the engine room's kind of there. Rashid Khan at the end. We've not really seen Manohar do it too often. I think he's had one good inning so far in this IPL. So maybe the Manohar role there could be the one that changes.
He is going up and down like a yo-yo at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah. But Ridham and Saha, massive upgrade just on this game alone from Matthew Wade.
He's a good keeper as well, which helps.
He is a good keeper. But it was, again, like today, like if he doesn't bat, we'd seen Gill bat the way Saha batted, and that as a partnership is okay. How many times have we seen Ridham and Saha face 25 deliveries and get 25 runs? Probably more than 5 occasions in the last couple of years. So it's one of those things.
He's also obviously a former Sunriser, so a couple of big redemption stories for you today, Ross.
Redemption arc, wasn't it?
I think Hardik Pandya at 3 arguably would do the job you're looking for, wouldn't he?
That's what I'm thinking.
He's not. I think he's been restrained this year, probably because he has been batting at 3 or 4. But he's got it in him, so I think having him there, I think it weirdly kind of works, even though it's a very strange thing to see Hardik Pandya coming in at 3 or 4. Obviously, if he's not going to bowl, then it's a different story. And actually, he becomes slightly more useful than we maybe thought he would be for someone who can't bowl. When we were looking at Gujarat before the start of the IPL and talking about how important it is for them that Hardik Pandya can bowl, that was probably with an eye on him batting at 6 like he did for Mumbai. If he's going to bat at 3 or 4 and he doesn't bowl, then maybe he's more useful without the ball. But nonetheless, having the ball, obviously, and being able to bowl is definitely better than not. But
I think the only other bit to add for this now is that there has to be a little bit of praise onto the batting of Sunrisers. They got to a really good position somehow. I thought Abhishek and Markram batted really well together. They complemented each other really nicely, with Sharma targeting the spin, Markram taking on the paces. But once Alzari Joseph broke that partnership, they properly stalled. Their middle order didn't churn out those runs, and it was thanks to almost like a once in a lifetime performance from the debutant to get them to that position.
I don't know. He has a pretty low, pretty high strike rate in the SMAT, so it's not like inconceivable that he could hit a few sixes. I don't think it was a very good over, but like maybe he'd be good for 12 from 6. I think that would be 25 from 6 is pretty good though. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. As debuts go,
on pace for a 24 ball century there.
So but an absolutely phenomenal game, and what it does is it opens up the tournament now. I think like if Sunrisers would have won there, there'd be a banker for the playoffs. Now there's question marks. Does losing this type of game, does it reverberate through their lineup and cause a bit of panic? We saw Matthias Muralitharan lose his cool in the dugout. When have you ever seen that?
He was livid.
He was absolutely livid. So I'm hoping this is the start of a steep decline for Sunrisers, but who knows?
Okay, Max, anything else you want to talk about from this match? It was good.
It was good. It was exciting. It was what we like. It was all good, solid IPL action. Another word of condolence to Umran Malik. He did get the man of the match, obviously, but or player of the match. I should call it, as that's what it is actually called. But
Snowflake.
been a been a great game.
Can't say anything anymore around
Bad
here,
luck.
can you?
Bad luck to Umran Malik and roll on Gujarat Titans. They somehow find a way to win every single time. It's got to run out soon, isn't it?
Well, who knows? Who knows? I mean, that's cricket, baby, as Mike Atherton says. Ross, yesterday, the Royals, your Royals, took on the other Royals of Challenger Bangalore. What happened?
Royal Rumble.
It was the Royal Rumble.
It was the Royal Rumble.
They need to start calling it that, don't they?
Yeah, it was the Royal Rumble. Joss Buttler finally failed, but fortunately, the future of India cricket, Rian Parag, decided to come to the party and contribute to the team for the first time this season with a pretty vital half century. The Rajasthan Royals, they were on the ropes, if we're going to continue the wrestling analogy, and RCB's lineup was body blow after body blow. They performed pretty much as we expected, really. They were really well balanced. Hazelwood in particular, really well performed. But the last 2 overs, the kind of wheels went off slightly because Parag started hitting it, which was great to see. Then there were handbags between Harshal Patel and Parag between the innings, which was unfortunately cut short for the advert. So we want to see that. In the Royal Rumble, we want to see the wrestling. And it was unfortunate that we didn't get to see it. Kohli had been promoted to open as the salvation, as the solution to his back-to-back first ball ducks. And after hitting 2 boundaries, there was an avalanche on Twitter. The boy is back. He's here. We're ready to see it.
I mean, they weren't the world's best boundaries, were they?
Nope. And he was out very shortly after. Ravi Shastri saying that he should take a break from IPL from now, which is pretty brutal. But he is devoid of form. But that is what happens. RCB then panicked, just like they did the last game, and they went completely into their shells. And they started losing wickets whilst going nowhere. The wheels were turning, but all the wheels were gently falling off. It was quite disheartening to see, really. And they got cleaned up by Kuldeep Sen, who again impressed, and the one and only Ravichandran Ashwin. Yuzi Chahal, the purple cap holder, and Joss Buttler didn't contribute anything in this game, and they still managed to come away victorious, and it pushed Rajasthan Royals to the top of the league.
Yeah, they're 173 for 20, RCP. They're currently worse at batting in India than England, which is really going some. What did the Royals do, Max, to defend this 144? Like, or maybe to put this a different way, like, why
What
could
did
RCB
do?
not get into the right headspace to chase down this low score?
I can only say that I think RCB maybe just thought they'd won it. They'd got Joss Buttler out. That was big. They'd kept them to a reasonable score.
Tell you what, though, just to go back to Sunday's show, Joss Buttler, that's a big sacrifice that the Royals have made there.
I was going to say that Manohar was almost a sacrifice that Gujarat Titans made.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if we wanted to bring back the Passover.
Let's carry on. Let's carry on, Max. Carry on.
Sure.
We don't want to become a sacrifice show, do we?
No.
There's some real cricket analysis in among the sacrifice references, but I did think Joss Buttler's. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
Okay. Well, yeah. So look, they dropped Hanish Rawat, who's done nothing, and brought in Rajat Patidar, who contributed a similar amount. Virat Kohli opening, worth trying stuff to get him moving, but obviously he's all over the place. I think where it really went wrong would be the wickets of Faf and Glenn Maxwell, because Faf did what he's done for the whole of the IPL so far. He got to 20 off 20. Most of the time, he's then gone on, and that would have won them the game, but he didn't, and that put them under pressure. Glenn Maxwell going first ball then meant that they had nothing to catch up with. And if you want to talk about sacrifice, the real sacrifice is Dinesh Karthik, surely.
It was an interesting performance, right? They properly panicked. Like, it was quite interesting. But if we talk about their strike rate and their intent, or
Well, we could talk about that, but he's gone, Max.
the lack of intent from RCB, it's really, really costing me. Only 2 batters here went over.
You did. You're
did
back.
Did I drop out there?
Yeah, you're back now. Carry
I was going to say that if we look at some of the RCB bit, the lack of intent that they have, it was quite difficult to watch. Really. Only 2 of their batters actually got a strike rate of over 110 out of the whole lineup, and that was 2 people who hit barely any runs. A mid-season wobble isn't terminal. I think there's plenty of opportunity because they had a decent start. But
It's very RCB though.
it is very RCB. How do you solve that intent problem, Max? Or is it just kind of a couple of games in a row where they've just been outdone by decent bowling lineups?
I think it's just a blip. I think because I mean Glenn Maxwell going first ball doesn't help, does it? When your main intent guy blows up in your face, it's pretty difficult. Shabazz Ahmed's actually been quite good intent wise so far, and he lost the plot. It was just one of those cases where I after it happened the first time, maybe that was it got into their heads, and it's the mental side, and that's where it's all gone wrong. It's very weird and hard to look into these sorts of things when you're looking at such a lineup of class players. You just clearly go and do things that are bizarre and not at all in line with what we've seen them do literally 2 weeks ago. So they just need to, I think, get up, dust themselves down, forget it all happened, and go back. Go back in time in their minds and refresh.
I think they're in a little bit of trouble, if I'm honest. I think they're in a little bit of trouble looking at their fixtures coming up. Gujarat Titans.
Yeah,
it's a tricky one. It's going to be a tricky one. CSK, that's a gimme.
Yeah,
it's a gimme. Sunrisers. Now
could go either way.
Yeah, look, I'm just not going to talk about Sunrisers games either way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They could win it. Both teams are going to be there. One of them's going to win it. Punjab, 13th of May, so what's that, 2 weeks' time? That's,
could go either way.
Yeah, could go either way. And then they finish, last game of the season, Gujarat. Now, that actually might not be...
Gujarat double.
You've got Gujarat double, but that might not be the end of the world, because Gujarat are basically certain to have qualified by then, aren't they? Probably nailed on one or two. So maybe they'll be playing against... Is it Vijay Shankar and the B team? Maybe Matt Wade will be back in. So there's possibility there, but what are they going to have to win from here, Max?
3 out of 5.
I think they might have to win 4. That net run rate. That net run rate.
Yeah, I suppose I didn't
pants.
think about the net run rate. It is, yeah.
And
that Sunrisers game's absolutely murdered them.
I mean, they can get caught by Punjab if they win their next match. Not a great net run rate either there, but if they win, that will presumably go up, or it should go up. Delhi, 2 games in hand. Delhi have played some good cricket.
And they've got the best run rate in the league.
Wouldn't be surprised at all if Delhi won those 2 matches in hand, and then you're in the mixer, aren't you? You're relying on KL Rahul's boys to melt down, and that could happen. They've won 5 matches. 2 of them were against Mumbai, and as Cameron pointed out, in those 2 matches, King Legend himself scored 200 in 120 balls. So a lot of good stuff's happened in against the worst team there. So maybe Lucknow are above their station.
Is Avesh Khan's injury bad or not?
I don't know. I haven't seen in the news. Someone will tell us in the chat who gets more IPL coverage. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm less hot on RCB. I think they needed to win one of those matches, and they didn't.
We spend a bit of time. Do we spend a bit of time fluffing the pillow of Rajasthan Royals?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I thought this was the first time that Josh Butler really failed in this lineup. He's been in a rich vein of form, obviously. It says a lot about Virat Kohli's ridiculous run scoring, right? In 2016, that Josh Butler pretty much has to hit a century nearly every other game to kind of catch up. Like it's a ridiculous amount of runs that was hit by Virat Kohli there. But let's talk about their approach. Like their approach is changing from game to game. And I'm wondering kind of what you both think about this. So they sent Ashwin into pinch hit, which actually probably worked out. He probably hit more runs, 17 from 9, than he would have done down the order. Daryl Mitchell was brought in for possibly one of the worst innings in IPL history. 24 deliveries.
I mean, they didn't. The way you've said
no
that,
boundaries.
The way you've said that, it's like they brought him in specifically to do that. I don't think that was the plan.
Daryl, would you mind just coming in and completely kiboshing our entire innings for us?
Absolutely.
In the last 24 hours, it's been a New Zealand off of who could be the worst Kiwi. You've had Daryl Mitchell, Ferguson, and Kane Williamson all vying out for that.
Mitch
title.
Santner's not great either.
No, he's no Moeen Ali, is he? And then like that. It's those change. They're almost changing their team to value their matchups against opposition. Sometimes it's going to work. Like Daryl Mitchell being brought in here for a bit of stability, just in case they lose out. And yeah, he didn't have the best of time, but difficult to be parachuted in. Max, are you liking this approach, or would you prefer a bit more stability in this lineup for pretty much a team who's saying, I don't want any batsmen past batting number 6?
Trent Bolt at 8 is absolute madness. In general terms, in 2020 cricket, I'm a huge backer of flexible batting lineup. Like, there's no reason for you to have a set batting lineup, because it's not Test cricket. You know, it's not about who's facing the new ball, who's going to make score runs in the middle of the day. It's about what time of the innings are you best suited to, and similarly with that, what bowlers are you best at facing? So if you're going to go with a flexible approach, for me, that's entirely the right way to do it. Ravi Ashwin at 3 is still a mystery to me, but it kind of works, didn't it? I genuinely, we sort of joked about it. We sort of joked about it last time.
Let's calm down.
He genuinely is being a power play watchman, isn't he? Like, that's genuinely what's happening. If they lose early wickets, he comes in to protect Sanju Samson. That's what happens.
Let's pump the brakes slightly here. 17 off 9 is good for Ashwin. It's not like nobody's thinking what we need is a number 3 that gets 17 off 9 every match and is out in the power play. Like, that isn't like I'm all for flexible lineups, but I don't really understand that. I think what you're doing, and I think this is basically what I said last time we talked about this, Max. By putting Ashwin at 3, you're not making your batting order longer.
No,
all you're doing is putting one of the bad players higher. Like, it's not. If you're gonna do something absolutely wackadoo, then there are dumber
First
things.
use of the term wackadoo we've ever had on the podcast, by the way.
Then there are more wackadoosical things that you could do.
Okay, look,
because Ashwin is a classical batter and he might hit the ball through the infield, but he's not going to do it very regularly.
When I say it kind of worked, I'm not talking about from the point of view of conventional success. I guess I'm talking at it from the point of view of what I perceive to be the reason that Rajasthan Royals have done this, and I think it is to protect Sanju Samson from going in during the power plays for whatever reason. And I think maybe to try and get a better result out of the power play than they had, and that's kind of what happened. He got them to a sort of vaguely respected. Well, it was better than it was.
They won as well.
They did win, but they didn't win because of this.
No, but
they won because Kuldeep said, who didn't bat. Like, we were talking Trent Bolt at 8, Krishna at 9, Chahal at 10. How bad is this guy?
That's mad. That's 4 number 11s is insane.
How bad is he? But he did bowl
more runs out of Ashwin. Yeah, they got more runs out of Ashwin than they would have done if he was batting 8, probably.
I think you probably get more runs out of Samson, and therefore more runs as a team if you don't end up with Samson batting in kind of a role that. No, you'd be better off sending Samson in and saying, do what KL Rahul does, just block your first 10 balls, mate. Like, just be there in 10 balls time and then tee off. You'd be better off doing that and then letting Samson have a run at it. Although, you know, like, I mean, Ashwin, as we said many times, is not a hitter. He's not going to do much down the order later on in the innings. So yeah, why not use the power? We should open with Ashwin. I'd say open with Ashwin. This is a lot of talking for a simple issue, which is they do not have enough batters. like that. That's what's happening here. But
I'm also not
it's
sure
working.
that Daryl Mitchell is an upgrade on Karen there. If I'm perfectly honest, like in this light, I'm just not sure that's
or the other
that's
Kiwi,
true.
Twitter star. They had Nisham and Parag, the axis of social media.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. And but again, with the bowl, Sen is impressed, right? Picked up 4 wickets here. He closed out the other game, which they won the other week. Like again, they've got some promising lineup, and it's amazing how their complete lack of bowling last outing, they've addressed that, and now they're doing okay. The 3 best bowling teams in the league are top of the charts.
Yeah,
it's a bowler's game.
Bowler's game. As everyone always says on the commentary, it's a bowler's game. It's practically.
We know the commentary's all wrong, don't we?
It's practically.
Do we need to touch upon the commentary from today's game and how bad Sunil Gavaskar and Murali Karthik were?
It was maybe the worst I've heard.
I was commentating myself, so I didn't hear any of it.
There was an amazing.
Why don't you avail me of
there
what
was an amazing bit?
Dreadful?
They had like that. Well, it was like all the classics. Like someone would hit a boundary, single next ball. And then
that's great
like,
cricket.
Yeah, it's all right. They've got their 9 runs for the over. It's like, no more punishment for that bowler. Let's move on. Just singles now. It's like, there was all of that sort of nonsense. And then Kevin Peterson was on, I don't know, sort of. It was like he kept saying Rashid Khan needs to swing the bat properly. It was like he'd never seen how Rashid Khan bats before. Yeah, he was like, he needs to stand there and swing through the line. And it's
that 60 hit where he basically broke his own wrists. That was insane.
But he didn't really like it. He wanted Flintoff, full face of the bat, back over the bowler's head. 2005.
I've never seen a shot like it, even from Rashid Khan. It was stunning.
Might have to put Christian a timeout on the chat. That's a lot of messages. Can't read them all. If they're coming through that quickly, you're gonna have a timeout.
Good typing speed, though.
It's good typing speed, and we do appreciate the interaction. But
we do.
Yeah.
Virat Kohli in trouble. RCB in trouble. Rajasthan Royals sitting pretty. Max, we then had the mighty Punjab Kings beat CSK.
Hold on.
They finally picked it. Well,
spoiled it. Spoiled the result.
No, I was going to say, Ross, what happened to your gloves? Do you want to tell people where you got your gloves quickly?
I got them from Serious Cricket. They're just out here. I literally got a little stash. They're very comfortable actually. These are some Keeley Vortex 500s or 600s. Got it from Serious Cricket on their website. 10% discount using code TCP22.
Good. Now you can carry on with the cricket.
I was going to say they finally picked the team that we'd been banging on about. Rajapaksa was in there.
Well, what do you think happened? Dan came on the show and he listened to me.
we told him what was what. Well, I say we.
This, by the way, is absolutely not what happened. For the avoidance of any doubt.
No, Jack. What we all know, we got Dan Weston a gig in the IPL. We got Cameron Ponsonby a gig going around the West Indies writing articles, and now he's writing for Cricket Info. It's all us, mate. Yeah. It's all us. And we got Punjab Kings to correctly pick their lineup, which, as you said, it involved dropping Odean Smith. It involved picking Rajapaksa to bolster the batting lineup a bit. And it was Rishi Dhawan who came in to fill the extra space. His first outing in the IPL in 6 years, sporting a...
It's quite good.
Facundo Sava. Do you remember Facundo Sava? That is very niche football reference. Played for Fulham.
Gaza had
for Fulham up front. Yeah, Gaza won. Yeah, and then also Sandeep Sharma came in, as we said. They were being rubbish in the power play. They need someone like Sandeep Sharma. Why aren't they playing him? They kept on playing Aurora because he had one good game. Here they've picked a winning team, Max.
They did
against your boys. The CSK
against my boys, but my boys are done for. So what are you going to do?
I like the summary. It's like it's in the round.
I'll start supporting my second team, which is, of course, Punjab Kings, because of the Dan Weston approach. Punjab, it was all Shikhar Dhawan. It was all the Shikhar Dhawan show. He scored 88 off 59, while Rajapaksa was muted for what we saw him do in the first 3 games. He wasn't his usual swashbuckling self, but I think it was a change of. I think it looked like a change of approach from Punjab Kings. It was interesting. They picked a team that was probably slightly more driven towards what we have seen them do, which is go out and try and hit from ball one and score lots of runs. Batted deeper, and then they played a much more measured approach. Shikhar Dhawan batted through for 88. Rajapaksa didn't try and hit the cover off literally everything, and it was only at the very end they sped up a little bit. Liam Livingstone scoring 19 off 7, doing his own Ravi Ashwin impression, was sort of got them that little extra kick that they needed, really. And in response, Chennai, well, they looked out of it, didn't they? The power play was dreadful. Was it 40 for less than that, 30 odd for 3 off the power play? They looked out of it. But Ambati Rayudu, 78 off 39, gave them hope before they eventually faded. With, like you said, Rashid Khan taking a couple of wickets on his return. It was nice. And Arshdeep Singh with some seriously good death bowling.
I don't think you're giving credit to how close they came to. Well, I mean, 11 runs.
They did nearly blow it. Yeah, it was the final over, wasn't it? The wicket in the final over with Dhoni being caught.
With 5 balls to go, they needed fewer runs, I think, CSK, than the boys did today.
Gujarat Titans. Yeah.
But Dhoni,
Dhoni wasn't going to do it twice in a row, was he? Wasn't going to do it twice.
It's over. It's all over. Get him out. I thought this was quite an interesting match. I wondered watching Punjab bat whether, to some extent, this was sort of the plan all along, that Shikhar or Mayank Agarwal would bat through or bat for a long time, maybe not.
Then the rest would go nuts,
scintillating, and people would bat round them. I think that the plan fell apart a little bit in terms of people going round them. Because Rajapaksa, if you look at his split spin v pace, there's a pretty big bias towards hitting, like he smashes pace basically. He doesn't really smash spin.
And CSK have 3 spinners, didn't they?
And they bottled him up pretty well. I think you have to give Jadeja credit there actually for some quite good captaincy to keep Rajapaksa quiet. And it looked like, because of that innings, and actually I think is 88 or 59 balls a great innings, not out. It's not bad. It's probably good overall, but you really need people to be going off around you to post a good score, and that didn't quite happen. And so he was a bit of an anchor on the innings, I'd say, Shikhar. Unfortunately, Liam Livingstone came in and got 19 off 7 balls, and Bairstow got 6 off 3. So between them, they got 25 off 10 balls, which is a nice little boost, isn't it? And that gets them to the score that.
Yeah, well, that was it. That was the key. That was the key with the bat for them.
And I quite liked as well that their bowling didn't look absolutely disastrously bad. It was, I think, at the halfway point in the Discord, which you can join if you become a Patreon. Check out the show notes from £4 a month. We were talking. I think at the halfway stage, we were looking at the bowlers they had to come, and it was like 3 of Arshdeep Singh, 2 of Rabada. They had, I think, at that point, 2 overs of Chahar left, and
they didn't even bowl him out in the end.
I think it was maybe 1 of Sharma and 1 of Rishi Dhawan. So they basically got through a load of Sandeep Sharma's overs early when he was moving the ball around. They had to bowl him 1 pretty dicey over, and that actually brought CSK back into the match, didn't it? It went for 20 odd. But they had so much depth sort of beyond that I think they were all right. They managed to sneak a Livingston one in, which was a bit unlucky. He went for 12, but I think there was like a chip over point or 2 chips over point that were a little bit unlucky. I think both went away for 4. So I thought they found, this is a really long way of saying, I think they found a much better balance in terms of batters, but also that bowling attack did look better. I think they potentially missed a trick not getting Chahar's over in. But they were so far ahead of the game by the point they had to make that decision. Ross, I want to say to you, Arshdeep Singh, he looks fucking good, doesn't he?
He looks absolutely mint. Like he's one of those players. He's unglamorous. He's kind of he's like I don't know, like N'Golo Kante when Leicester won the Premier League. Like an absolutely key cog in that team, but goes about his business in a pretty unfashionable way. And the guy doesn't take loads of wickets, but his dot ball percentage is really high. He doesn't go for many runs at all, and he's always bowling in the most difficult slots as well. I think there's a lot to be said for him, and I think if you look back at the India Under-19 World Cup a few years back, where he was backup almost to Mavi Nagakosi. I can never say his name.
Mavi.
you know what I mean. And yeah, he's doing the business for them, and he's one of the bright lights in this lineup. And I'm glad that he's doing well, especially after his breakout year last year.
And now they can use him in the right place. They don't have to waste 2 in the power play.
And what I was going to ask you, so Jack, you were mentioning today, why doesn't Shami bowl 4 overs up front? Sharma is actually probably in that bracket.
Well,
you can get 3 out of him.
Yeah,
you might be able to risk getting the 8th over. It's a pretty dead over, really. Like 7 and 8 are actually quite easy. Well, they're statistically some of the easiest overs to bowl.
It's the Jadeja over.
I do think if you're carrying an absolute liability of a death bowler, Mohammad Shami probably falls into that camp. Sandeep Sharma, I think, definitely falls into that camp. Trent Bolt might fall into that camp. But when the ball is moving, they are a handful. I kind of think just get one of the spinners to bowl one later. You know, it might go for 10, but surely there's less chance of it going for 25 and it being a complete bomb site. And
teams are geared up that way, right? So they have their pace finishers probably coming in at the death, and they're kind of expecting that as well. So they're set up a little bit better to take down the lesser bowlers.
I wonder, it might be potentially because, and I think there is evidence for this, the more you see a bowler in a match, the higher your strike rate tends to go, particularly actually if you see more balls in 1 over. But the logic would follow as well that if you see more balls over 2 overs or 3 overs, you probably see a similar trend. So maybe teams are a little bit wary of that. Look, I mean, it was easy to say this now because he's only played once in this IPL, and the one deathish over he bowled, it wasn't even full death. Was it the 15th over, 16th over? It was a disaster. So it's easy for us to sit here and be like, he should never bowl at the death. Maybe he can be better than that. But he looked like a rabbit in the headlights. It was just like, he hasn't got an option here. He's got no slower ball. He can't bowl a Yorker. He's not going to bang it in. He's not quick enough. So he's just going to stick it on a length and get a little bit like slow Pat Cummins or something like that. It's a long way of saying I agree with you. Maybe only bowl 3 overs. We see a lot of that happen as well. Deepak Chahar's won for the 3 over special, isn't he? Taken over off. They then have to find an extra one somewhere else.
Well, Raj Shah didn't bowl his 4.
Yeah.
They could use that.
It basically means you definitely have to get at least 1 out of Livingston. Is Rishi Darwan a 4 over bowler every match? I don't know. He looked good in his first 3. And I think
he closed out, still close to the game out. But the most difficult over against the best finisher of all time.
He had a pretty fat margin though, didn't he? So
yeah, and that's what you want. Cricket business, fat margin.
You do want a fat margin. I mean, there's a big fat margin in the IPL in general, but if you're bowling the death over, you definitely want a fat margin. And he had one. I mean, it did. He could have bowled. He could have blown up. So I don't think Rishi Darwan right now is thinking, "Oh God damn it, that over went for 15." He's thinking, "Yes, it didn't go for 25," and win's a win, right?
Yeah. Well, all of that action, gents, leaves Mumbai bottom and they're out of the tournament. CSK, Max, you said they're done and dusted, they're out.
Yeah.
KKR are on the brink. If they lose their next game, they're out of the tournament pretty much. Delhi Capitals have only played 7 games, so they've got kind of a game in hand or 2 games in hand over some of the other teams. Punjab Kings, we've just spoken about, might have stumbled across their winning formula and they're 4-4. And then you get into the teams that are on 10 in RCB, LSG, and Sunrisers. RCB being a little bit bothered as they've played 1 more game than everybody else. And then Royals and Gujarat Titans sitting pretty at the top. And you could probably say that Gujarat Titans have pretty much already qualified now. The game's coming up.
Been a good team.
Yeah, been really, really good. Yeah, and again, they've put together difficult pieces, right? If you look at their batting lineup, there's not much to shout home about, but they've done a great job.
It bats deep and it puts people under pressure at the end. And there's almost every team. We saw it from Marco Janssen today, to go right back to that match. Almost every team's got at least one bowler that isn't quite up to it, that can get punished especially if they're bowling in a phase that they don't really want to be bowling in.
So we've got Delhi versus KKR tomorrow. That's a huge game. That I think it should be pretty good. Max, where's your heart? It's been played at the Wankhede, which has started to deteriorate a little bit. Where are you thinking?
Well, it was the Wankhede today, wasn't it? And they scored enough runs. So
yeah, Ross.
I Sure, they'll be fine. It's got to be Delhi, isn't it?
Okay, Delhi. Jack, you gonna go with KKR? You gonna stick with Delhi?
I'm going to go with Delhi. I think KKR. I liked their original plan, which was I don't know if I liked it. No, it was like we're going to have quite a few guys that are stable batters. Got a couple of guys who are going to slog it down the order, and we're going to have 8 overs of exceptional spin that also takes wickets. Now they only have 4 overs of exceptional spin that takes wickets. Ryan and Billings are opening the batting. And
it's all gone wrong.
They still have Dre Russ. They still have Dre Russ, so they could win. They could win a load of matches.
Yeah, but Dre Russ tried to win them the game on his own the other day, and they still lost. So
it was kind of like they were building a puzzle, right? They had all the pieces of the puzzle. They were starting to put it together, and then a child came in and just threw it all up in the air. And now they're just like, "This is the picture that I've got." I'm gonna say that KKR win that one. Actually, I think they'll put Delhi under a bit of pressure.
Someone's got to.
Big game for Delhi. Big game for Delhi.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably both teams are out if Delhi lose.
Yeah, but so it should be a good game. And then we're going to cover the Friday game on Saturday morning. Max, it's Punjab Kings versus LSG. Again, every game now is a huge game, which is great. Other than Mumbai Indians playing CSK, that's not a huge game.
Might be a good game, but not a huge game.
It's a huge game, but it's a meaningless game. It's like one of those pre-season friendlies where Real Madrid take on Barcelona in Dubai, and it's like, well, I mean, people at the ground think this is good. It's
the children think it's good.
Yeah.
Max.
Punjab Lucknow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's you can't predict what Punjab are going to do, can you? But I like them. I'm going to go with Punjab. I'm not convinced about the Super Giants. They've had, like you said, they've had their good days and perhaps a little reliant on a few players. But I think Punjab should come through that one. I hope they do. Anyway,
Jack,
I think it's a really hard one to call. Because Punjab are so sort of erratic. They played some of the best cricket, certainly with the bat, some of the best cricket in this tournament. But with the ball, some of the worst, or if not the worst on occasions. Lucknow, though, as I said a little bit earlier in the show, they've won 2 of their 5 wins, and they have won 5 out of 8, so we should remember they are quite good. Two of their 5 wins have come against the Mumbai win dispensary. So there is maybe they fatter slightly. I'll go with Lucknow. I think Punjab will struggle to get out King Legend, and they might struggle to get out Quinton de Kock. And if you don't get them out, then you can take a bit of a punishment. Yeah.
It'd be interesting if they employ Liam Livingston up front bowling his off spin to someone like
that might be an idea. They haven't quite worked out Livingston yet, have they? I think he's going at 11s in the IPL, and he is a better bowler than that. Just like we said, he was a better batter than when he wasn't doing well. He's never going to be a frontline spinner, but he could be like a Glenn Maxwell. I think.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I reckon super over.
Super
over. We haven't had one yet, have we?
Yeah, I thought we might have one today, actually.
I thought we might have one today, yeah.
Quickly,
because it would have been particularly awkward for logistics of doing the podcast.
Can we real quickly run through a few questions?
Yes.
We have one from Chintan, and he said this is a repeat. So he sent this to us on the 8th of April originally, so sorry about that, it was quite a while ago. Can debutants Ahmedabad Bad Boys emulate Leicester, Ross?
Yes, they can.
The 2015-16 Premier League campaign, not this year, where they're like...
Yeah, well, at the moment, the sky's the limit, right? Every single 55, 45 game, they seem to come out on top of somehow. One of their players turns up and does it. Great bowling lineup. No reason why they can't.
No, Badger has asked us a question. How many times has a team won an IPL match when only one person has taken a wicket? Now, that will have happened, but I don't know. Max, do you know?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Let me just quickly look. 8.
Well, we've got
8.
We've got all the ball by ball data of the IPL.
Yeah, we do actually on our Patreon
from before the last season or so. So you could probably answer that question yourself with that data, I reckon.
2 final questions. 1 word answer on the first one from Amar. Should Kohli retire, Ross?
No, he shouldn't retire. Even I can't get that far.
and Anuj says to you, Max, how do you think Umran Malik would fare at the international stage?
That's a really good question. I think he'd do just fine because I think
fine.
I think he'd do just fine.
Okay.
The international stage, I think, in terms of the level of players, the people who play in the IPL, they all play on the international stage, and some worse players play on the international stage. So I feel like he'd be perfectly well matched. Obviously, he's raw, young talent, and he'll have bad days where he goes for runs. But so do people like Lockie Ferguson and co. So I think he's exciting. He will play, and he will be good.
Cool. Right, we're going to wrap up with a super chat from Tushar. Don't understand where Nortje has disappeared after playing one match. Delhi has been lacking in the fast bowling department. Delhi Capitals is a champ team. I think if they can get Nortje back in, you're spot on. Definitely a little bit of an injury there, though, when he came back.
Yeah, I think they may have rushed him back a bit because they had a bit of they won the first game against Mumbai, didn't they? And then they kind of stumbled a bit, and they probably thought, "Oh, let's get Nortje in." I'd love to see Nortje and Malik and Ferguson and all of those boys. I mean, it is good.
Alzari
Joseph was quick
today as well.
Yeah.
Good to see. It's good to see. Cricket likes it. The Cricket Podcast likes fast bowling. Final reminders at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Patreon.com/thecricketpod. Check the show notes. SeriousCricket.com. 10% off if you use the code TCP22. Any final messages for anyone else, or is it goodbye?
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Goodbye from me.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.